He's an open source journalist, and he made his name on the Bellingcat, an organization exposing Russian intelligence, exposing Russian spies.
Can we look into this guy, or would it raise too many questions?
There are some people the world doesn't just fear, it absolutely despises them.
And he was the target of that Bulgarian spy ring that was exposed in London very recently. He was on the kill list.
Not because they're dangerous, but because they're walking, talking truth in a system built on lies.
Why take the risk? Why you?
And for one man sitting in the Kremlin, he's public enemy #1.
Christo Grozev.
Christo Grozev.
Christo Grozev. Christo Grozev.
In Moscow today, a court ordered the arrest of well-known investigative journalist Christo Grozev.
The Bulgarian investigator who managed to humiliate the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world, using a laptop, a $20 Wi-Fi connection, and Google better than your mom uses Facebook. And today we're not just telling his story, we're stepping into the world where being good at finding the truth can literally get you hunted by assassins. Christo Grozev was born in 1969 in the ancient cultural heart of Bulgaria, Plovdiv. Yes, the same Bulgaria where they occasionally send journalists to early retirement if they ask too many questions. From a young age, Christo had one major obsession, and that is information. While normal kids were fighting over who gets the bigger piece of cake, usually Christo was probably arguing over who hacked the bakery's Wi-Fi first. He wasn't just smart, he was obsessed with facts, patterns, and exposing lies hidden in the plain sight. He studied journalism at the American University in Bulgaria, then sharpened his skills across Europe, learning how to spot deception with the precision of a brain surgeon, and the patience of someone willing to read an entire government archive just for fun. Before becoming the nightmare of tyrants, Christo spent years in media management and broadcasting, running successful radio operations across Eastern Europe. But eventually the truth pulled him back in. He joined Bellingcat, the now legendary open source intelligence team, where his hobby of connecting shady dots suddenly turned into exposing war criminals, secret agents, and global scandals. And guess what? You don't need spy agents, you don't need to be James Bond, and you definitely don't need to own a secret underground bunker. You just need to be smarter than the idiots trying to kill you. And Christo has been playing 3D chess against a bunch of KGB boomers who still think putting Novichok poison in underwear is a brilliant idea. Make sure you stick around because this is the part where things getting seriously insane. Today, Christo Grozev is not just investigating in secret anymore, he's also sharing his work publicly through his YouTube channel called The Christo Files. There you'll find videos like how Russia's secret agents got exposed, a real breakdown on spy techniques, step-by-step dive into an open source investigations, and even a guide to how to solve a poisoning case. Which, by the way, will tie directly into our story later in this video. So I really do encourage you, if you're really interested in the world of modern espionage, investigations, spy screw-ups, and global scandals, trust me, you'll want to check his YouTube channel and subscribe after this. This man literally teaches civilians how to outsmart dictators with nothing but a laptop and stubbornness. But before we get too cozy, let's be clear. When you start exposing powerful people, you don't just get hate comments. You get spies, you get threats, you get your life turned into an open season. And for Christo Grozev, it wasn't just a theory. It was about to become terrifyingly real.
Делали, как говорится, все прорабатывалось вопрос. И не один раз. Ну, в нашей работе, сами понимаете, вопросов и нюансов всегда очень много, и все учитывать, как бы, ну, стараемся всегда по максимальному. Вот, они там закололи институт какой-то, предположительно. Если бы там чуть-чуть дольше, то, возможно, и все как бы закончилось по-другому.
In late 2020, one of the most absurd and jaw-dropping scandals in the modern spy history unfolded, and right in the center of it, like Bulgarian Sherlock Holmes with internet access, stood Christo Grozev. Here's what went down. If you haven't seen the documentary Navalny yet, yes, there will be spoilers, so I highly recommend you to watch it later if you really want to feel like you just lived through a real-life spy thriller. After surviving a poisoning attempt by Novichok, a Soviet-era chemical weapon classy enough to kill you but cheap enough to fit a KGB budget, Alexei Navalny is Russia's most fearless opposition leader and anti-corruption activist who spent years exposing Putin's criminal empire, didn't hide under a rock. No! Instead, he teamed up with Christo and the Bellingcat team and went full GTA mission on his own would-be assassins. They didn't just investigate, they literally called the agents who tried to kill him. Pretending to be a high-ranking Kremlin official, Navalny asked the dumbest of the hit squad, Kostadin how exactly they felt so miserably.
Константин,
Да.
Здрасте, меня зовут Устинов Максим Сергеевич. Я помощник Николая Платоновича Патрушева. Мне ваш телефон дал Владимир Михайлович Богданов. Извините за ранний звонок, мне нужно 10 минут вашего времени, очень сильно нужно. Руководство в очередной раз, новая итерация обсуждений, попросит, наверное, вас попозже рапорт подготовить, но я сейчас делаю доклад для Николая Платоновича на Совете Безопасности, все это будет обсуждаться на высшем уровне. Мне нужно один абзац, просто краткое понимание от членов команды, что у нас пошло не так, почему в Томске был с Навальным полный провал. Ваше мнение напишите, скажите мне, пожалуйста, я запишу, а позже уже в рапорте укажете.
В Омске был провал.
Нет, в Томске. Нет, имеется в виду в Томске.
В Томске.
Да.
And guess what? The man confessed everything on the phone for almost an hour without a lawyer. Without even googling, should I talk to strangers about murder?
Вот, как вот сделали, как говорится, все прорабатывалось вопрос. И не один раз. В нашей работе, сами понимаете, вопросов и нюансов всегда очень много, и все учитывать, стараемся всегда по максимальному. Садили там это, сами понимаете, да. Они ему там закололи институт какой-то, предположительно. Если бы там чуть-чуть дольше, то, возможно, и все закончилось по-другому.
Не то, что по оперативной связи, то есть мне просто человеку, который не сильно разбирается и, в общем-то, не хочет вникать в детали. Как ему кратко объяснить, как было сделано? Просто чтобы я, точно это сформулировал.
The cherry on top, the poison was administered into Navalny's underwear, specifically the crotch.
Во-первых, вещи где? Что с вещами?
Были, я их крайний раз видел в Омске самом.
Это...
там. Мы там ездили, работали. Конечный пункт нахождения я не без понятия. Могу только, знаете, что сказать. Мы когда приехали...
Обработано и все с ней хорошо.
Да, крайний раз, когда отдавали, да, все чистенько. Где это паховая часть.
Паховой частью трусов.
Гульчик так называемый, там швы такие есть, вот по швам.
That's right. The FSB spent millions of dollars training assassins and they still decided, haha, bro, the best spot is the man's Calvin Klein's, trust me. Just imagine being Vladimir Putin. You launch a covert operations to silence your biggest critique and you get exposed by a phone call to a dude you poisoned in his underpants. If humiliation was a sport, Putin would have definitely taken the Olympic gold medal for that. The madness didn't stop there. In 2023, the movie Navalny won an Oscar for the best documentary. An investigation sparkled and executed with Christo's help ended up humiliating Russia in front of the whole world.
And the Oscar goes to Navalny. Daniel Royer, Odessa Ray, Diane Becker, Melanie Miller, and Shane Boris.
Thank you to the Academy, to everyone who helped make our film. You know who you are, your bravery and courage made this film possible. We owe so much to our Bulgarian nerd with a laptop, Christo Grozev. Christo, you risk everything to tell this story, and it's investigative journalists like you and Maria Pevchik that empower our work.
If you haven't seen Navalny yet, you have to watch it after this video. Seriously, it's not just a documentary, it's a masterclass in real-life courage, stupidity of dictators, and why the truth still matters. But how did Christo's native country of origin, Bulgaria, reacted to this historic achievement? Did we celebrate one of our own as a national hero? Did we cheer like other normal countries would? No. Instead, a bunch of clown college dropouts from the pro-Russian party Возрождение, translated as a revival, declined it was time to open their mouths and remind the world that yes, even medieval-level IQs can still get elected sometimes. The leader of the circus, Kostadin Kostadinov, also known by his rap name Kopeikin, stood in front of the microphones and declared that Christo Grozev was not working for the interests of Bulgaria and was a foreign agent. Yeah, because apparently exposing attempted murders, spy networks and global corruption is now considered treason if your brains are still buffering at 2G speed. They're the same people who think the Soviet Union was paradise, wear tinfoil hats under their suits just in case NATO being signaled. And also, let's not forget, believe Wikipedia is an American spy tool. No joke here, unfortunately. Kostadinov, the man who thinks diplomacy is blocking people on Facebook, the man who believes Christo Grozev is a foreign puppet, but somehow doesn't find it suspicious when half his speeches sounds like they were copy-pasted straight out of the Ruski Едно TV channel propaganda memes.
И това е само единствено заради вас и вашата предателска, отцеругателска и майкопродавска политика.
Apparently when Christo was saving lives, tracking spies, exposing lies, you were out there chasing flies, dreaming about Soviet skies. Christo's out here risking death, you're just out here wasting breath. Saving the truth, he's in, spitting the illusion, you win. Young brother confused, grandpa's dreams misused, Russian agents amuse your own brain cells abuse. You try to smear a man respected worldwide, while you can't even get respected outside your grandma's Facebook group chat live.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kostadinov, the man who could lose an argument with his favorite bikini on. Oh yeah, and this random guy with his strong position towards Russia.
Аз и моето семейство сме благодарни на майка Русия, на майка Русия и на Съветския съюз. Значи ги послиш на зляпи зол. Стига пъти. Сериозно ти казваш, знаеш.
And what could the so-on famous TV channel Russia Едно or Russia One has to say about Southern Eastern Europe? Probably wondering how to strengthen connections and become closer allies with Southern Eastern Europe.
А Болгария, Румыния тоже там.
Значит, Болгария, Румыния — это просто база НАТО. Болгария, там все побережье наши граждане. В этом смысле никаких проблем нет.
Просто шарахнем.
Что?
Шарахнем просто.
Мы шарахнем, сначала нам нужно закончить на Украине.
With the clowns continue honking in Bulgaria, Christo Grozev keeps doing what he does best, unmasking the killers, hiding in shadows, and making sure that the truth doesn't just survive, it always wins.
A London court has found 5 Bulgarians guilty of acting on orders from Moscow to surveil, kidnap, and possibly kill the Insider's lead investigator, Christo Grozev, and its editor-in-chief, Roman Dobrohotov.
After humiliating Putin on the global stage, Christo Grozev didn't just make enemies in Moscow, he made them everywhere. Kremlin influence could reach including deep inside Bulgaria. The story that unfolded next isn't a Hollywood script, instead it's very real, and it started with exposure of high-level Bulgarian spy ring directly tied to the Kremlin, with one goal: find Christo Grozev and silence him. Let me introduce you Orlin Rusev, a Bulgarian businessman, IT specialist, and apparently someone who thought being a mid-level Bond villain was a good career move. Orlin Rusev wasn't just some random dude. He had once worked in the Bulgaria's Ministry of Energy as an advisor, back when Petr Dimitrov was a minister and Sergei Stanishev was a prime minister. You can learn more about who he is in my previous video over here. Yep, political connections so deep you'd need a submarine to map them. From the session of the British court, Orlin Rusev was flexing with deep connections with high-class Bulgarian governance figures featuring Rumen Radev, current president of Bulgaria, Cornelia Ninova, former leader of the Bulgarian Socialist Party, and Boyko Rashko, former minister of the Interior and deputy prosecutor general, working under orders from Jan Marsalek, a high-profile Austrian fugitive Kremlin asset and a man at the center of the Wirecard scandal, one of Europe's biggest financial frauds. Wirecard, for those who missed it, was supposed to be a massive digital payment empire, but behind the shiny facade, over 1.9 billion euros simply vanished from their balance sheets. Like a magician pulling a bankruptcy notice out of his hat. Investigative journalists played a major role in uncovering the truth about Marsalek's shady operations and his deep links to Russian intelligence. Their work is featured in the Netflix documentary Scandal Bringing Down Wirecard, which, by the way, you should absolutely watch if you want to see what happens when journalists take down a billion-euro fraud armed with just their laptops. One of the funniest and most tragic moments, when the journalists finally tracked down one of the Wirecard's so-called major offices in the Philippines, supposedly managing billions of euros, only to find a regular family watching their dogs in the backyard. And after everything collapsed, Jan Marsalek fled straight to Russia, where he's still hiding today, most likely somewhere between a Kremlin safe house and a very confused Russian passport office. But back to our story. Orlin Rusev set up a massive surveillance operation in Europe to hunt down Christo Grozev and Roman Dobrohotov from the Insider. They didn't just stalk them, they built an entire spy arsenal worthy of a budget horror movie. Their equipment included 221 mobile phones, 495 SIM cards, 258 hard drives, 55 hidden visual recording devices, 33 audio recording devices, 11 drones, 16 radios, 3 IMSI catchers used for intercepting signals, 75 passports, 55 of them fake identities, high-level espionage with state backing. This wasn't an amateur hour, this was a full-scale intelligence operation backed by state-level resources.
So the arrest warrant is apparently the legal framework needed for a kidnapping. Tried to find out why we did this, and that was the answer. Personally, I find Grozev not to be a very valuable target, but apparently, Putin seriously hates him.
At first, the mission was simple. Track Christo Grozev, hack his devices, steal his private data. You know, standard KGB procedure taught to all intern beginners in the Kremlin. But soon the mission evolved. From mere surveillance, they moved to planning assassination attempts. Methods discussed: poisoning, like Skripal case, burning Christo alive, hanging, sledgehammers, kidnapping him and staging it as an accident.
I guess a more quote-efficient and strong message wouldn't be kidnapping Grozev, but actually killing him. Like 1. Steven Bandera, or 2. Like Leon Trotsky in Mexico.
I agree with that, though an axe is yesterday's weapon. Better a sledgehammer, Wagner style. I'll pass it on.
And these weren't just bar jokes at Kremlin's Christmas party. British intelligence found operational plans for every method.
They were considering both possibilities. Clearly, the Kremlin had no objections to the idea that it could be an assassination as well, but I think their primary goal was kidnapping, to interrogate us and provide Putin with information on how all these investigations were even possible, particularly the one into Navalny's poisoning.
Their twisted plan included honey traps, sending women to seduce Christo and find his vulnerabilities. One of them, Vanya Gaberova, traveled to Montenegro with hidden camera installed in her glasses, hoping to capture private footage of Christo.
Grozev seems hooked and in love with Vanya. He started liking her pics and posts. We can move slowly to a romance. Shall we push slowly for a date?
She'd be up for that. Let's wait a little. Let's not underestimate the guy and his paranoia.
That girl is real hot. She's a swinger too. I think after getting shaken with the MiGing robbery, he will be slightly depressed, and an excellent opportunity for a girl to appear and help him relax.
But Christo being Christo, he didn't even notice her. Not because he's a ninja, but because when you're busy exposing death squads and corruption regimes, you don't really have time for Tinder.
I never noticed any of these women. I definitely didn't notice the woman that was planned to be my honey trap. But after she was arrested and her face became known from publications, I checked my Facebook history and I did discover that at some point in August 21, she had befriended me. She had sent me a friend's request on Facebook.
Later, British investigators identified other members of Rusev's group: Tikhomir Ivanchev, 39-year-old decorator; Ivan Stoyanov, 32-year-old former MMA fighter; and Bisser Jambazov, 43-year-old medical career, along with his girlfriend Katerina Ivanova, 33-year-old assistant in a medical laboratory. Christo Grozev also shares in an interview that even his 14-year-old daughter discovered one of the spies that got arrested while they were on a walk outside.
And she said, "Dad, I think that's a spy following us." And I said, Sophia, don't try to be like your dad. I mean, let me handle the spy catching. You just do your school thing. She said, "No, Dad, I'm sure that he's a spy." But only my daughter, who was 14 at the time, had noticed that person.
And if you think it couldn't get more absurd, these brilliant minds even registered a company in London called BSP Started Limited, named after the Bulgarian Socialist Party. Oh, and guess what? They had official BSP party cards granted by Sergei Stanishev himself. Yes, by a former Prime Minister of Bulgaria. Because clearly, when you're running an international espionage ring, your top priority is going to be naming your company after your political sugar daddy. In the meantime, they were actively plotting kidnappings and assassinations.
Some freaking genius just suggested again to kidnap Grozev and to take him to Moscow. These people never learn.
If you are serious about it, and if Grozev is in Bulgaria, I have the resources to kidnap, drug him and lock him up in one secure cave. Then we need to plan the extraction process. We will need a plane or a boat.
Honestly, I think it's a bad idea. It will be just bad press, and 6 months later, there are 2 new Grozevs. It's like Hydra. You cut off one head, and 2 new ones emerge.
But if they want it, I'm happy to give it a shot. It'd be a cool project.
In July 2021, while Christo and his family vacationed in Burgas, the spies were nearby, tracking, photographing, and planning to abduct him. Chat shows Rusev bragging.
Very good news. We almost have him. See, the boat took a selfie on. We also have his accommodation place where he stays. 99.9% chance we have a selfie with Grozev tonight.
Now, if we'd find someone we could contract for a suicide attack on him, it would be the best. I like the idea to blow the boat.
But Christo unknowingly avoided the trap, moving locations, staying alert, staying alive. Meanwhile, Roman Dobrokhotov, Christo's ally from the insider, was also being hunted. When he tried to escape Russia, the authorities raided his house, stole his passports and tried to block his exit. He eventually escaped to Ukraine, barefoot, no car, no planning, no nothing. Just raw survival.
Apparently this was an attempt to find at least some traces of involvement by Western intelligence agencies. Of course, they found nothing, but they took my foreign travel passports so that I couldn't leave Russia. As a result, I had to cross the border on foot without a passport. That's how I ended up in Ukraine.
Meanwhile, in Vienna, things got even worse. The spies rented an apartment directly across Christo's building. And one night, they broke into his home, they stole a laptop, only to realize later they had eventually stole his late mother's laptop, while Christo's son, he was chilling in his room next door, probably beating the final boss in Mortal Kombat, completely ignoring the world's least successful spy case happening next door. So much for being Russia's elite agents.
On that day, when this group broke into my apartment in Vienna to steal the laptop, they had not done their homework to find out that my son was in his room playing a computer game. And he stayed doing that throughout their burglary. Imagine what would have happened if he had walked out of his room. I don't want to think about it.
When these spies were hunting him, something even darker happened. Christo's father, the man who raised him, died under suspicious circumstances. Right after Bulgarian police and intelligence services were actively surveilling Christo's family, his father's death was ruled natural. However, Christo Grozev did not give a definitive answer whether he believed his father was intentionally murdered or not.
Do you believe he was murdered?
I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to know.
Whatever it was definitely a warning, a silent threat, a way to say, we know who you are, we know who you love. Even when they stole his privacy, even when they stole his peace, even when they stole his family, Christo Grozev did not stop. He didn't run, he didn't back down.
We might have the opportunity to abduct Dobrokhotov by boat. Any ideas on how to do it?
We will be brainstorming the idea with Baiza Jambazov.
A successful operation in Britain would be very convenient after the Skripal failure.
The police have very poor control over the eastern coastline, which illegal migrants take advantage of all the time. Dobrokhotov would be an illegal migrant in reverse.
The problem is how to pick him up in international waters. I'm not sure the guys here would trust our abilities enough to put us in command of a submarine.
In 2023, the British authorities arrested the spy ring, hundreds of devices, tons of evidence, operation completely failed. The British court officially ruled guilty on espionage on behalf of Russia. The Russian state had attempted to kidnap and possibly murder Christo Grozev and Roman Dobrokhotov. They came at him with spies, drones, poison, and even death threats. And yet, they still lost. Because there's one thing tyrants always forget. You can kill a man, you can silence a voice, but you can never kill the truth. And Christo Grozev, he carries it louder than ever. When you talk about courage in today's world, it's easy to think of politicians, influencers, people making noise. But real courage looks a lot quieter. It looks like a man sitting alone at the desk, staring at data, chasing killers, while knowing fully well that at any moment they might come for him. Christo Grozev never chose the easy path. He could have stopped after Navalny's poisoning was exposed. He could have disappeared after his name appeared on Russia's most wanted list. He could have run when his father's death was ruled natural. He didn't. He stayed, he fought, he continued. When Alexei Navalny was murdered in a Russian prison, it sent a message across the world.
You're not invincible, you will be heard. Speak too loudly.
And yet even then, Christo Grozev didn't back down. In a time where the truth is treated like a weapon, lies are sold like candy, Christo Grozev reminds us that fighting for the justice is never easy and it's never comfortable. It's not safe, it's lonely, it's dangerous, but it's necessary. He was labeled as a foreign agent, as an enemy of the state, criminal by regimes desperate to hide their own crimes. But no label whatsoever could rewrite the truth he had covered. No bounty can silence his voice. Christo Grozev today stands not as a perfect man, but as a symbol, a living reminder that one civilian with a laptop and a stubborn refusal to bow down can still terrify empires built on fear. He didn't choose safety, he chose the truth. He didn't choose silence, he chose to speak. He didn't choose comfort, he chose the hard road, so the others could see clearly through the fog of lies. And maybe, just maybe, Because of people like him, our world still has a fighting chance. We owe it to people like Christo Grozev not just to admire their bravery, but to remember it, to protect it, and maybe when our time comes, to show a little bit of it to ourselves. Because the truth will never defend itself. It needs someone willing to risk everything to defend it.
I'm an optimist, and I think in the long run I've been proven to be right. So it's not hard. It's not hard. I mean, being an optimist is the only thing that can explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. So it's easy.